Are you planning on racing the very iconic and famous Noosa Triathlon in Australia this year? Well, if you are, this is the video for you because in it, I have got the company of a very experienced local coach who has raced Noosa, who's going to talk you through everything you need to know about the swim, the bike, the run, and that very big transition. So let's hop onto it. Who am I? My name is Coach Steve or Steven Moody. I am a coach, but it's more turned into a YouTuber of late where I do reviews of races around the world. Initially only Ironman and 70.3, but now I've realized there's really cool races out there, such as Noosa Try. So I'm using my network to answer all the questions you need to know if you're a first timer or you're looking to PB, just to give you the info to get that goal. And how do I do that? I reach out to people who, well, over my coaching journey, I've been lucky to interact with and sort of meet at conferences or races or even just in various forums. And I get them on the channel. We interview them. And this way, we have Chris Chatham from Australia, who has done a couple of really cool videos, 70 like good Cairns, for one for sure. Make sure to check out those. But today is going to talk all things Noosa. Chris, how are you? A little bit about yourself and how you know Noosa.
Yeah, g'day, Steve, and good to be back, mate. It's always good to chat with you. Noosa, this is actually one of the very first big triathlons that I did when I got into the sport. So, very familiar with it. I had family who lived up there at the time, so it was a nice, easy trip. And Noosa, for those who aren't from Australia, it's a bit of a holiday destination for those, like an internal holiday destination. It's sun, sand, and just warm water, and it's just a fantastic place. And it's very very popular with tourists, but also a bit of celebrity spotting and that sort of thing. So, but me, yeah, I'm a coach with GPC Squad. I run GPC Ballarat, and yeah, love having these chats, mate, because it's great to sort of share some knowledge.
No, absolutely. And again, please call me out if I'm mispronouncing that. It is Noosa. I've got that right. I did have a very
Yes,
poor pronunciation of Geelong for a while, but I got there in the end.
yeah, no, definitely Noosa. Yep.
Cool. Excellent. Okay, cool. So yeah, and we'll talk about, as I said, delighted to have you back on the channel. Always some great info. And let's dive in as the phrase goes. So it's an Olympic distance in Noosa. What will people expect to have on the day?
Um, Generally speaking, it's warm. Noosa is in Queensland. It's on the Sunshine Coast, which is north of Brisbane. So generally speaking, the weather is warm. It can be quite humid as well. It does depend on what sort of weather has been like leading up to that. But for anyone coming from the southern states in Australia, like myself, yeah, we definitely notice the heat when you get up there. It's usually sunshine. It's beautiful. Now I've raced it 3 times. Every single time that I've raced it, it's always been good weather. The water can be a little different. I was actually just looking at this course before, and this is a slightly different course to the last time that I raced it. So when I last raced it, it went essentially along the beach, sort of headed left, and it was almost reversed. So it was a clockwise. You went left, a rectangle, and then came back out. So they've actually extended this, and I swam this last year. I went up and did what they call the Noosa the Noosa Marathon, and they do an open water swim, which is actually a 3.8. So you head out exactly the same, but you just go out further. That's probably a little bit more protected, depending on where the weather's coming from. There is a bit of a surf beach there, so if the swell is up, you can have a little bit of swell on the swim. But you're essentially heading either into it or with it. So it's fairly direct. It doesn't sort of cop you from the side a little bit. So I actually really like that swim course. I think that's probably a little bit more challenging because you've got the swell, but just a bit more interesting. You head a little bit further offshore, which is nice.
So again, the classic questions again, as in wetsuit legal regularly, or are you Australians getting at your budgie smugglers?
It will depend on the water. I've done both, and it does come down to the water temp there. Whether now look, if you've got a wetsuit and it's wetsuit legal, wear it. It's going to be faster. But there are times there where you're not allowed to wear it. It's too warm, so they'll make it wetsuit. What's it? They call it non-wetsuit swim. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And in terms of again, me and my conversations about Australia, I'm always terrified about things in the water. Is there anything going to meet in the water as a jellyfish, sharks, big tarantulas
Look,
on
no,
surfboards?
you're too far south for the crocodiles, which I mentioned in the Cairns one. But no, look, you're fine. It's probably the most popular beach in Australia, that main beach. It's very well protected, very well patrolled. They obviously do all of the safety checks that they need to, but from a shark perspective, nah, they're not out there. They're too scared of a whole heap of people jumping in the water and splashing around. So no, never had an issue.
Nothing's more scary to a shark than a bunch of triathletes about to tell them about their PB and their bike split and their Dura race components. Um,
And generally speaking, there's not much to eat on them anyway, so they're not that interested.
yeah, just too chewy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The Now, big question for me, as I said, I know we do a lot of 70.3 in our man, as and I know they do a rolling start. Noosa is one of the biggest Olympic distances in definitely the Southern Hemisphere, possibly in the world. So, how do they handle the start? Is it a rolling start? It's clearly not a mass start of like 4,000 people. How are they handling this?
No, they tend to do it by age groups. So
Oh, cool.
they'll and then within the age groups, you'll then self seed. So I've started. They always obviously the pros go first. I've done one where I've been in the water not long, just a few minutes after the pros because that's when my age group was allocated. And the last time I did it, I spent nearly 2 hours sitting off to the right hand side of where you've got your little dot there, just watching everyone go because of the amount of time that it takes. So there is a huge amount of people. Looking at it last year, there were 4,500 individuals who competed, and then on top of that, there were 1,000 teams. So you're looking at north of 7,000 people are racing. So it can be a little bit of time. You've still got to get there early because they'll leave the transition open to a certain point, but they do have to close it, and then it's just a case of sort of sitting around and waiting. Plenty of opportunity to get your warm up swim done at the right time. That whole beach off to the left hand side there. There's heaps of space there to go and get your warm up swim. So there's no issue there. Generally speaking, it's nice and warm anyway. You hang around. There's a chance for the family to go get a coffee or something down Hastings Street. But yeah, so the reason it takes so long is because of sheer numbers.
Okay, great. All right. So again, key things again, as we always say, make sure you do check out the athlete brief. Make sure you do check out the timings because that age group slot will be key. And if you are one of the later age groups, any hints and tips that you say, like if there's no point in doing jumping jacks for 2 hours near the start, what would you advise someone who's going to be sitting in there waiting for, say, half an hour before they actually get into the water? Any advice?
Yeah, so me, I just I tend to do my warm up about 20 minutes beforehand. And I was there for like I said, 2 hours. So I just literally had a snooze. I just went and found a spot, nice calm spot. Just sort of watch the world go by. I try not to be up on my feet too much because you've got a lot of time out racing. So once you get there, there's plenty of space on the beach. Your family can sort of hang around. I think just keeping calm, keep the heart rate down, and then just follow your normal warm up protocols when you get to sort of that 30 minutes out.
Cool. Excellent. All right. So we've done our 1.5K swim. Looks fairly simple in terms of said, watch out the chop. Our exit. We'll talk about this now. Or is there anything else that we need to do to cover on the swim that you think the athletes need to know?
No, look, it's pretty simple. Yeah, it has changed a couple of times. They used to swim. They used to do it. If you have a look on the bottom there, it's got Lions Park. They actually used to swim in the canals there
Ooh,
a lot well before I was involved or I ever did mine. But yeah, the move to the main beach has been a really good one.
cool. All right. So we're exiting the water. We're up to the beach and we're into transition. Um, okay, so we'll pop onto the transition area. The transition area looks, and again, as we can imagine, with 4,000 athletes or plus 7,000 if you take the relays, we need to know this well. So here we have. This is our swim exit. So we're coming out of the beach. This is all on grass, tarmac, or what are we running on here, mate? Or
So obviously sand up the beach, then you're on to basically asphalt, sort of bit of a paved area. They do lay a carpet down as well. It is quite a long transition from swim exit to your bike, and because you're running across a couple of roads, which is it's all closed off. But then also transition itself is really quite large, and they use every available bit of space that they've got there to cram as many bikes in. And there is a little bit of a down where it says teams bike exit. You can see on that bottom left-hand corner, there's a little ramp, which is where you'll run up and over when you're doing your run exit, which we'll come to. But that's where you'll sort of walk out after you've wrecked your bike. And it's a really great photo looking back at, you know, in the vicinity of about 8,000 bikes all wrecked there. So it's, if you can imagine, that's not a very big area, but it's full of bikes. Yeah.
Cool. And is it a clean transition or a traditional transition? Do you just, is it like where you have to set up all your kit beside the bike, or do they use any sort of special bag system like Ironman or?
No, no bags. You'll get access in the morning to set up your bike. So that's where you come in. You'll set up your towel beside your bike, always on the right. And yeah, it's old school, for want of a better term. It's there's no bags involved. It's all set up beside your bike.
Traditional, I love it. Okay, so couple of things to jump off the page for me. It's a huge transition area. So what tips do you give to an athlete who might come along? It might be their first triathlon. It's going to be huge. What tips do you give to them to make it easy to find their bike and get in and out and just make sure they know what to do on the day?
So a couple of things I do when I'm in this one. So all around the outside of that transition, there's usually well, there's plenty of trees, but there's usually some light towers, that sort of like the temporary stuff that they bring in. So I take really close note of anything that might identify my row as apart from the row number itself. So I'll look for other things. So you can sort of see there's a bike mechanic. So if you happen to be in a row near your bike mechanic, that's great. So I look for those sorts of things. I take really careful note of my row number that I'm in and which side of the row that I'm on. So after I've racked my bike the day before, I'll walk the transition and making sure that I'm picking out some of those things that I'm looking for. The other thing that I do is I'll use a towel that hopefully stands out a little bit. I don't use the Noosa towel because most people are using the Noosa towel, so they all look the same. So I tend to try and pick a different towel that might just stand out a little bit. And then, on race day itself, just when you enter your row, just taking your time, understanding how far down you are, because you might wreck your bike and you could be the first person to wreck your bike, and it looks very, very different when suddenly there's 1,000 bikes on that rack as opposed to 3 or 4. So just taking your time when you're coming down and being sure that you don't overrun it, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Definitely, again, 100%. So was it find an inanimate object, make sure you kind of know where your lines and then walk your ins and outs to what you're going to come from your swim to your bike exit here. And then also make sure it's the single transition that you walk where your bike entry when you're coming back in post when you're in C2 where you have to go. And the racks are all numbered, yeah? And you get your number when you register, or do you get that beforehand?
I know you'll probably know your number just prior. They tend to send out an email with your QR code,
Cool.
and generally it'll have your race number on there. You may not know your rack number until you actually rack, and that's more than likely. They will get you to rack by age group so that you're not haven't got people everywhere coming in and out. So generally you'll be racking in around the people who are in you're close to your age group, if not in the same one.
Cool. So like if you're looking for an age group podium, like if you like when you can see the bike left behind, you go, I'm in a good state. So now I think that's great. The bike exit, this is the mount line, or it's probably around here. And just for a couple of things, when you are transitioning from swim to bike, you cannot touch your bike until you have your helmet on, or else you will get a time penalty. And you cannot get on your bike until you cross here, and the marshals at the bike exit, what we call a mount line. It'd literally be a line where you have to get your entirety of your bike across that line before you jump on it. And again, just a little bit of hint for myself. Everyone gets over it and then the minute they get the rear wheel over it, they all try to hop on. It gets very crowded there. Take an extra couple of steps, give yourself a room. So because then when you throw your leg over the bike, you're not kicking Mildred from Victoria in the head. So give yourself a bit of space. This will be a wide enough road. So make sure you take
Yeah.
advantage of that and off you go.
So the mount line is probably a little bit further around, Steve. It's just past that roundabout. So yeah, they actually
Oh, okay,
clear
okay.
you out a little bit further. Yeah, that little purple dotted line, that's actually a pedestrian overpass to get you up and over into sort of the recovery area and the other side of the course. It can get very, very crowded in there. So no, mount line and is around just to the left of the roundabout, and then the dismount, I'm pretty sure from memory, you come around that roundabout and then it's just past
Yeah.
and you dismount there. Yeah.
And again, the dismount line, just to clarify that as well, that's when you're when you're transitioning from bike to run. It means you have to stop the bike in its entirety, and then you have to get off the bike before you can cross that line. So you're not cycling into where your rack is. And
Yep.
again, I joke, but I've seen it happen. And again, it can be confusing if you're a first timer. So That's where you have to dismount, get to the rack line, and we'll talk a little bit in T2, etc. Any other kind of top T1 or transition one tips for the newbie?
I wouldn't leave any drinks on your bike the night before, only because it can get pretty warm and humid there. So I'd be taking it out. Take any nutrition you want, put it on your bike that morning. Even worth putting a bit of ice in there, or some way to keep it a bit cool, because you potentially could be sitting out on the beach waiting for a couple of hours before you get in the water, and then add another 35 to 45 minutes in the swim. So potentially 3 or 4 hours after you've put stuff onto your bike is when you're getting back to it. So if you like your nutrition nice and cold, look at ways to minimize the amount of time it spends out there. Otherwise, it's just about orientation. It's quite a large area, and just taking your time and understanding exactly where you're located.
I'm going to give a top tip on this. And again, this is why I love doing these videos. I picked this one up from a South African coach. What she does is she actually puts her water bottle into the freezer the night before. She fills it up three quarters and she puts it, and when she takes it out in the morning, it's a block of ice. And then like she puts it on the bike and she's putting on a block of ice on the bike. By the time she comes round, yes, it's all melted, but it's still as cold as it possibly could be. So that's my top tip
Nice,
for all
like
you
it.
Australians living in a hot country. All right, let's hop on to our oh yeah, just in terms of great tips there from Chris and all the rest. And as you can see, he's top coach. So we'll give you his details later on if you want to reach out and actually get yourself a PB on this course or other courses. But there's some other short little transition tips that I have in the video in the comments below that just, how to find your bike, how to mount your bike, how to run with your bike, just sort of short little helpful tips. So make sure you check them out, like and comment. It means I know I'm doing a good job. Right, moving on. And again, big shout out to Chris again for thanks for giving up his time for this and all the rest. So please do check out his YouTube channel, and I'll put his details for the GPC squad in the details below. Please thumbs up if you're enjoying the video and subscribe if you want to have other triathlon content. As I said, I focus on race reviews, etc., so people can know what race is about, and I let the real experts like Chris do the coaching stuff. But I'll let you know what the course is like by interviewing all these people around the world. And speaking of which, back to Chris. So our bike course. Now, this is a 40K loop. Sorry, 40K loop, a 40K course as the Olympic. Do you want
Mhm.
to talk us through it? What people can expect?
So essentially an out and back with a little bit of a deviation on the way out, about halfway along, and you can kind of break it up into, I guess, three sections. So you've got the main section which follows along the river from the start. You're heading out through Noosa, and then out through to Tewantin, and then you hit something called Garmin Hill. So Garmin Hill is a closed road all the time, except for when they use it for, I think they do like motor hill climbs. So it's sort of set up almost like a racetrack. Got
Ooh.
the barricades on the side of the road, and it's quite a windy, short, sharp, steep, punchy hill to get up. I really enjoy. If you're a strong hill climber, that's where you're going to be overtaking some people. So that's sort of I guess, the second that divides the course in terms of you've got that steep hill climb, and then you back out onto sort of the main road there. So the top bit there is more undulating, and essentially out and back. There's no aid stations on the bike course. You've got to have everything with you. There's no time to sort of stop and take on nutrition. When you're coming back, instead of coming back down Garmin Hill, you actually come down the main road back into Tewantin, and that is quite a steep, fast, essentially straight descent. So you do have to be mindful of that. They do tend to park an ambulance at the bottom of that for various reasons, mostly because people will come off there if they're not careful. I've come down there at rather high speeds, and I've just had to touch the brakes a little because you can start to feel the speed wobbles coming in. So you do have to be careful coming back down. It is quite a steep, but it's fast, and that if you enjoy your downhills, and that's going to be a good one. When you come back into town, the road surface is exceptional. It's just flat and it's super fast, and it's just a lot of fun. And pretty much from the bottom of the descent all the way into town, the crowd starts picking up. People are out having their coffees, they're having their breakfast, and as you get closer and closer to that finish line, particularly along that last little section after you've gone over the bridge, the crowd is probably 5 or 6 deep, and they're pretty rowdy. So, and then right at that finish area, there is just thousands of people. It's an incredible feeling. It's probably the closest an age grouper would get to sort of feeling like that they're at a world championships, or like the Tour de France or something like that. You get lots and lots of people around, and then it's just a really fast sort of course. It's a lot of fun.
Cool. So, in terms of road surface, good. It doesn't, aside from this at Garmin Hill, it seems to be flat enough. What are we thinking equipment wise? If you have a TT bike or a road bike, what are you recommending?
TT bike, it's disc wheel appropriate. There's enough space out there to get an advantage from a disc wheel. The climb is a good one, but it's not it's not for any length of time. But essentially, the top bit, it's a little bit more undulating, but yeah, really, really well suited for a TT bike. If you've got a road bike and you've got the ability to put on some clip-on aero bars, you'll definitely get a lot of benefit out of it as well.
And does the course get very crowded with all these people? Like, what's the stage? Like, is there any a safety advice you give to guys in terms of communicating with their cyclists, or is there anything specific that you or so thought, like, actually for this course, you need to be really on it, talking to people, or any other tips there?
Um, Look, I think people find their space pretty well. I haven't really sort of experienced too much congestion, except maybe towards the finish line where the road does start to narrow a little bit. And the only reason for that is because you've got both bikes heading out and bikes coming in. You've then got the crowd management, so they've got barriers up to sort of manage that, but that also encroaches a little bit. And there is an element of the run course as well, which sort of it just everything gets a little bit squeezed. So you've just got to be mindful. In Australia, we ride on the left-hand side of the road, so making sure we're overtaking on the right. So you don't want to be coming through on the left-hand side. So it's just being mindful of that from a safety perspective. The other bit is just being, I guess, aware of the bikes in front of you. If you are in a TT bike and you've got your head down, you do need to be mindful of the bikes in front, just because there are going to be a few out there. They tend to try and stagger the age groups in a way that allows for, I guess, the cleanest possible racing, but you're always going to have crossover. So it's just being mindful.
Yeah, and again, lots of communication as well. Like for me, again, I always, if I'm overtaking, I tell someone I'm coming and all the rest, so they don't suddenly see it beside and get a bit of shock. And it doesn't have to be an aggressive communication. It goes overtaking right, and be polite as well. Look, you're doing well, keep it up, la la la. You get good karma, good energy from being polite, clear, and just positive to your fellow racers. And just hope to God they're not a stronger runner than you if you've just overtaken them on the bike. Don't, don't give them a target by being a dick.
That's it. Yeah, it's exactly right.
Okay, cool. Well, anything else on the bike course? We move on to transition two.
No, I think that's about it. Oh, probably the only other bit is just to the left of the main map there, just where it sort of says C inset. Just along there, there are a few of those larger speed bumps. They sort of go up, across, and then down. And they're permanent ones. So it's just being, I guess, a little bit mindful of those. If you're not prepared for them, they can catch you out a little bit. But generally speaking, you would see them coming. They're not. It's not like they're hidden or anything.
Yeah, and then again for those as well, make sure your bottles are well secured as well. A lot of people end up launching rear-mounted bottles and the rest. Top tip there: use sort of elastic bands, make they're secure. But okay, cool, good tips. Right, we'll move on to transition two. Again, single transition. So we're coming back to our same place. We are now coming back in on the around the roundabout, and as you said, our dismount line is roughly around here. Talk us
Somewhere
through
there, yeah.
how you would advise someone to transition quickly in Noosa.
So if you're someone who like leaves your shoes on the bike, then by the time you get to that roundabout, you would want to have your feet on top of your shoes. But if you're someone who leaves your shoes on, I would wait until you get around the corner. Then you're sort of braking fairly quickly. Then not suddenly, but you're just slowing down fairly quickly around that roundabout. Taking your time and being careful. There are bikes around, just as like there is when you're mounting the bike. There's going to be a lot of people coming in, so taking your time and being aware that people are coming in behind you and that you're actually coming in behind other people as well. So everyone brakes differently, so just try and make people aware of what you're doing by being sort of, I guess, telegraphing what you're doing. So, if you're clipping out, making sure it's obvious that you're clipping out. When you're coming into transition, again, when you've racked your bike the day before, hopefully you've done a good walkthrough and you've actually looked at it from the bike entry point of view so that you then know, again, which rack you're going into, what are those permanent features you might be looking out for, which side of the rack you're on, what's the bike rack number or letter or whatever it is they allocate. And then it can be a little bit trickier then because obviously stuff gets thrown around, messed up. If you've had a wetsuit, there could be wetsuits lying everywhere. So just being really careful about where it is that your transition area is, and then taking your time, just having a bit of a breath and trying not to rush too much, particularly if you're there for the fun of it and you're not sort of racing at the pointy end. Enjoy the experience.
Yeah, and again, these areas like transitions tend to be a hive of people as well, so there'll be a lot of energy. Um, for me, again, I'm of a fan of get in and get out from T2 because once you get onto the run, you're getting closer to the finish line and the lunch and nice celebrated beer. So I always tell my guys, nothing good happens on transition two. So you get in, you get out. Your transition two should be a lot quicker than your transition one.
Mm-hmm.
You're not taking a wetsuit off. You're literally, once you've got your runners on, you can start moving towards the run exit, which is this point. So I get my guys, get the runners on, get start walking, jogging, or running, depending on how competitive you're trying to be, with your cap on, get that on, get your shades, get a gel in you, etc. Um, then you go up this ramp you said, and out on the run course.
Yep.
Anything else we need to know specific about T2 or?
It'll be hot, so more than likely it'll be hot, and you're going to be wanting, some not so much refreshments, but you might be looking for some water. They'll have water pretty much, I think, just after that ramp, sort of where it says timing chip removal. There's usually an aid station there. That's your first one, usually just with water. There is also some sprays, but I don't know that you go through them on the run. There's water further out on the course that you can run under, but it will be warm. So, making sure you take on some of that water at the aid station, get it on your head, try and get that core body temperature down, will help you for the rest of the run because it can get pretty sticky out in the run.
What about do they have sunscreen appliers? They had that in Roth where they actually had people slapping on suntan lotion. Do they do something like that, or do you have to put on your own
Uh,
suntan lotion?
yeah, I don't believe they do for this one, only because of the numbers and also, for the longer distance, so like a
Yeah.
17.3 and Ironman, they're definitely around. But I think because this is a standard, they don't. It's not something. I could be
Okay,
wrong, but
cool.
I don't believe there is. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, that'll be an awful lot of suntan lotion for
Oh my
7,000
goodness.
people.
Yep.
All right, cool. Anything else? Any of the last top tips for T2?
No, I agree. Nothing good happens there, so get out of there as quick as you can. Get your shoes on and carry the rest. You've got. It's actually a really quite a large exit or long exit. You've got to run right around the outside, so there's actually plenty of time before you even cross the timing mat to say that you've exited T2 before. So heaps of time. Put your hat on, your sunnies on, put your nutrition belt on if that's what you have. Yeah.
And I always feel a little bit cheated when they have long transitions. I think they should give you credit on the run. Like if that's like 500 meters or so, you go like, here, so I surely only need to run 9.5. Like I did sign up for this. No. Anyhow,
Yeah, this is a hard one. Like even if you race this one quickly, because of the length of the transition, both from swim out to transition, but then even just the length you've got to run inside transition, it does add times on. So if you've raced a standard distance somewhere else, it's got a really short transition. You've got this wonderful time. This is probably not one to compare it to because just purely because of the length it takes to get in and out of transition.
yeah, no, absolutely. It's more a case of the experience and Noosa with these massive crowds and this massive field, but also then you're looking at where you position an age group as well because everyone's doing the same transition.
Yep.
Alrighty, we'll move on to again transition shorts. Again, there's some short transitions about how to get your runners on quick, how to get doodle-doo, how to find your runners, etc. in the comments below. That will help. And then we will move on to our run course. So we're out of transition, and the run course is this red line here as opposed to the blue line for the run. You want to talk us through the run course?
Yeah, so it's one lap, just essentially out and back with a little bit of a deviation sort of in the middle that you can see there. There is heaps of aid stations. It works out to roughly one every kilometre-ish, something like that.
Wow.
So they're quite regular, and they're with the exception of R5. being the transition, the aid station there, they're all double-sided. Um, yeah, I don't think. Oh, actually, R5 might be. It might be just sort of tucked into where those roads cross over there. Um, so plenty of opportunity to get nutrition on the course. It's effectively flat. It does creep up a little bit uphill from the R3 aid station out to the turnaround. Not a huge amount, but it does creep up a little bit. It can be quite warm and exposed out there. There's usually, and they've got a little symbol on there for the music. There's usually Party Central up around there too. It's you know that you're at the turnaround because the DJ is playing and it's really quite loud, and it's just what you need when you get out there and you realise, hey, I've only got to run home now, and you loop back around and you sort of follow your nose all the way back around to the R2 aid station, and then we take a right and we head in amongst some of probably the most expensive real estate in Australia in there. There are some exceptional houses and all the locals love it. They all come out, they're all sitting out, usually with their hoses on their nature strip, and they're just willing to squirt anyone with water who wants it. So there is plenty of opportunity to get a hit of water, drop that temperature down, and stay as cool as possible.
I presume that with the affluents, they're just spraying you with champagne or sparkling water. It's not just normal tap water.
It could be. Look, and yeah, all of those houses have got some beautiful waterfront frontage, and there's some exceptional buildings around there. It's how the other half live, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, but can they swim, cycle, and run? No, they can't, Chris. That's what they want to be us. We want to kind of be them. Oh, okay. All right. And in terms of the pacing the run, as in any sort of tips you give for the first timer? Do you try to kill the first 5K and sort of limp home, or what's your strategy in an Olympic distance?
Yeah, for me, when I race an Olympic, it's on from the start. So I'm trying to hit some targets for me. So I'm pretty full on from the start. But again, it comes down to the day, and usually, even if it's been a bit cloudy at Noosa for the swim or even the bike, usually by the time the run comes around, the sun's come out, the temperature starts climbing. There is shade on the course, but there is also plenty of spots there because you're either running on the road or you're running on a concrete path. There is plenty of opportunity to be out in the sun as well. So I think depending on how you're feeling off the bike, it's about keeping that core body temperature down and just, I reckon, being consistent with your pacing. So if you feel like it's not your day to run a 10K PB, just be consistent, because once you get to that turnaround, as I said, it's then essentially downhill all the way home. Um, as you get closer to that finish line, the crowd just becomes huge. And they're absolutely everywhere. And I guess we'll probably come to spectator sort of side of things shortly, but it's just there's so many people, and after about 8K, if you feel like you're struggling, the crowd is going to get you home. It gives you a real buzz.
Nice. And again, yeah, as you said, it's an easier course to pace because there's no hills to really take into account. You said there's a bit of a drag here, but as I said, there's no heartbreak hill or anything of note that you have to sort of adjust your running style. Okay, cool.
No,
And
not
temperature
really.
management as well, as you said, that in terms of all these aid stations, making sure you're taking on liquid, using the ability of if they have ice, put them down your front, pour some water down the back. Just anything that'll keep the core temperature down is going to help you maintain your pace rather than overheat. Anything else you give on heat management strategies?
Yeah, you mentioned the ice. I forgot to mention that they will have ice out there. There are a few spots there where they'll set up sprays over the road, so as in over the course. So definitely, even if you're really struggling, rather than running through those, just stop for a second or walk through it just to get a bit more onto you. So take advantage of that if you feel like you're struggling with the heat.
Cool. All right. Anything else on the run course before we go on to the bit of venue?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay, cool. Excellent. All right. And this is, oh, did I have, I thought I had a picture of it, the finish line. I thought I did. Okay, so these are the main kind of key information. And again, we're going to tap into Chris's knowledge of the venue to get a bit more. But start time on the Sunday is 6:15. Again, you'll be lined up by age group. Make sure you check that out in advance. The check-in is the day before. You do have to check your bike in the night before as well. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah, it'd be too hard otherwise.
Okay, cool. And in terms of the as I said, I think the main thing is the logistics because it's so there's so much going on. Do you want to talk us through your advice on for a first timer heading to Noosa?
So I think something with Noosa is it's sort of out on a little bit of a not so much a peninsula, but you've got a river on one side, you've got canals, you've got the beach on the other, and then you've got a whole heap of forest around as well. So it can get very tight in there. So you'll get a feel for it when you go in to do your registration, for example. You can drive down the main street. Hastings Street is the main street of Noosa, or Noosa Heads itself. Uh, Very, very popular with tourists on any day of the year, even more so over the Noosa Triathlon Festival. So being patient, I think, allowing yourself plenty of time. Uh, on race morning, take advantage of the shuttle buses. Yes, your day will start earlier, but it is still a start time of 6:15. Your actual race start time might be a little bit later than that. You'll get all of that information when it comes through, but just plan on it being a really early day. Your family or friends who are spectating, they can always come in later, but don't expect to get a park close to transition. It's impossible. A lot of the roads are actually shut, and the shuttle buses are the best way to get in, where they will essentially just drop you off almost out the front of transition, where there is actually a bus stop that they set up for that very purpose. The Reggio area and the event village is probably one of the best you'll see in Australia. It's very well supported by the sponsors. It's a great place to go and just hang out if you want to sort of get the feel for the vibe of the place. It's a lot of fun there as well, and it's pretty easy to spend a fair bit of money there too if you wanted to.
I presume it's garments, so therefore free garments for everyone, is it?
Yeah, sure. No,
No,
I'd be
no,
going
actually,
every
maybe
year
not.
otherwise.
Before garments sue me in the video, no, no free garments.
Yeah, no free Garmins. Although they do have, and this is from all of the supporters and sponsors, they do have some really good giveaways. So it's worth entering all those little competitions because, yeah, they'll often use Noosa as a way of sort of
Launching a
promoting a
product, or
new, yeah, launching a product. Another one that they do is, I think it's ASICS is
oh
been a
yeah,
long time sponsor, and there is an ASICS Noosa shoe, and usually this is when you see the next version of it get released is for this weekend.
actually, what do they give out? I know the way Iron Man, you get your rucksack and you get in America you get a flag and a cap as well. Did they give a goodie bag out at Noosa, and is it anyway decent?
Oh, it's not too bad. From memory, there's a towel. I've had a hat before. You get your medal at the end. There's usually it's not so much a bag. It's one of those little drawstring bags.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it's got a few little things in there. Like anything, it's probably more about activations as opposed to free stuff. But yeah, there's a little bit of stuff in there. I'm
I've
happy. I
got
get the
all
towel.
those little drawstring bags. They and now like store like one's an outdoor cycling sock bag, one's like a running glove bag. So they actually help me organize my triathlon life. But yeah, but you wouldn't
Nice.
be really working around with them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the other thing is just be aware that it's quite a tight little area. That's probably the biggest takeaway is that everything is crammed in. They get a lot of people into a very small area, so nothing happens quickly, particularly at the end of the race. When you come through the finish chute, you'll go through another big spray where everyone sort of stands around almost as a shower.
Okay.
You then give your or they collect your timing chip, and then into that recovery area. Yeah, past the timing chip removal, it's actually quite tricky for people to get there. That's why you've got that purple dot sort of. Uh, I think it's a raised walkway to get up and out of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, having a bit of a meeting spot for your family is probably a good one, and
Yeah.
you can probably say just well away from there, but it's up to you guys as to what you feel works. It just gets very, very full. And they've got some VIP areas. So it's where it says Garmin Beach Club to the top there. That's sort of the VIP area. So, yeah, it's actually good for some celebrity spotting as well. Like if you want to see the royalty of sort of triathlon in Australia, that's where you'll see them. And it's just sporting royalty. You'll see a fair bit of fairly familiar faces, always a few Olympians getting around. And yeah,
Oh, do they have like any like VIPs racing it? We had like what you call it, man. Gordon Ramsay was racing the T100 in London, and all the rest. Which I think it'd be cool to beat Gordon Ramsay in a race. Do you have like famous people that turn up to do Noosa? I think you do, don't you?
Absolutely. They actually run a whole, like it's actually a 5 day festival, and the culmination is the triathlon on the Sunday. But they do a celebrity triathlon. They call it a triathlon, but I think it's a run. I've never actually watched it because I'm always off doing other stuff. But I think when they say triathlon, I think it's like a 3 person relay. But that's full of all sorts of celebrity sportsmen and women. So yeah, and look, there's crit racing, there's a beach run, there's actually if you're high level running athlete, so for men you've got to be sub 17 minute for 5K, and women you've got to be sub 20. You can actually enter the 5K event, and they have good prize money too.
Oh, quality. It does look brilliant, and I must admit, I'd like, be excited to get down to do it at some point. And seeing as I'm an influencer now, and maybe I get invited to that the celeb race. Maybe not. Again, I think maybe there was more truth in me saying you get a free Garmin. Okay, right. So I think we're gonna wrap it up there. Is there anything else you want to add in there, Chris, before we wrap it up?
um, if you're going to wanting to do it this year, too late, sold out. There are some team options available, but it is something that actually sells out quite quickly. And the other thing is have a think about your accommodation. Now, it is the Sunshine Coast. It is a very popular tourist area for Australians. So there is heaps of various accommodation options, but just be aware that it does sell out quickly, and you might have to be prepared to actually stay a little bit further away, and perhaps hire a car to get into town. So it becomes very, very popular at that time of the year. It's handy for me. I have family who live very close to there, so I just book in with the sister and go and stay there. But yeah, just be aware that because it's so popular, you might not get accommodation, or if you do get accommodation very, very closely, you're going to pay for it. So it can be a little bit expensive. So just do your research first would be my
Yeah.
advice.
Actually, speaking of accommodation, by the way, I probably should have had the screenshot in here. There's a new search engine that I've partnered with that if you enter in Noosa or Australia, it will give you options of locations, Airbnbs, apartments, hotels, and you can choose where you want to be, near the start line, near the finish line. So, and there's a discount on it for smart endurance, and that you save 5%. I'll put that in the comments below. I should have added that to this video. I'm getting new to this stuff, but I love the fact that your sister is guaranteed to meet you around November. You haven't seen her in ages. Got to pop up.
Yep.
Oh, hi, it's just me with my bike and my wetsuit, my runners. Miss
Yep.
you, sister.
Yep. Can I
Classic.
can I borrow your car?
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, we're gonna wrap it there. But again, just before we wrap it up, again, a massive thank you for Chris giving up his time. As you look, it's great to have an experienced coach, an experienced Noosa finisher to talk us through that. As you can see, he knows his stuff. Very, very nice guy. And a top coach as well. So if you're looking to get yourself to the next level, I strongly recommend you drop Chris an email, have a conversation, figure out your goals, and he'll figure out how to get you there. So his comments and his details are going to be in the details below, but definitely do check him out. And on that point, Chris, we're gonna again love chatting to you. Always very but now I'm in danger of I need to figure out how I can get down to Noosa for November. I have to explain this to the missus that the new we've changed the holiday plans.
Yep. Yep.
But appreciate your time, and thanks. Any last minute words to the nervous newbies?
No, yeah, if you're coming up to Noosa or coming down to Noosa, enjoy it. It's a spectacular part of Australia. If you've seen stuff about Australian beach culture, it kind of started around that area. So it's just a wonderful spot to go.
Fantastic. All right, love it. Listen, we will wrap it up there. Thanks again, Chris. Always a pleasure. Have a great day.
No, thank you.